I'm Azaria Tagaya, and you're tuning into Nightline, news making the headlines. Stock trading scandal, Parliamentary Special Committee on Corruption advises Tan Sri Azam Baki to go on leave. And Malaysia to be the 12th country to complete RCEP ratification by end March. Good morning. Malaysian Anti-Corruption Commission Chief Commissioner Tan Sri Azam Baki has been advised to go on leave until a full investigation can be carried out over the stock trading scandal hurled against him. However, Parliamentary Special Committee on Corruption SCC Chairman Tan Sri Rais said while the committee is of the view that the MACC chief should be placed on a temporary leave, the Public Service Commission or PSC has the final say on the matter. Tan Sri Rais said it is a general practice that when an officer is investigated for any malpractice or misconduct, he or she will be suspended from their duties.
Tapi dalam hal ini, lantaran banyak pandangan menjurus kepada fakta bahawa ia bukan satu kriminal ataupun satu perbuatan jenayah, tetapi mungkin hanya salah laku ataupun tidak dapat menyempurnakan tugas. Justru terbaik pandangan kami juga ialah beliau mengambil cuti, rehat sebentar dan membiarkan jawatankuasa itu menjalankan tugas.
Tan Sri Rais was speaking during a media conference at the Parliament on Friday following an SCC meeting. He, however, pointed out that there have been high-profile cases where those under investigation were not placed on leave, and thus it is up to the PSC to decide whether Tan Sri Azam should be put on leave or not. Tan Sri Rais said the SCC had met twice over Tan Sri Azam's share deal and recommended an investigation since the matter has become a source of contention and had been discussed publicly on social media since last month. He said the SCC recommended that the authorities such as the Securities Commission, the Police, the Public Service Commission and the Public Service Department initiate investigations. He said the investigations would be able to establish the facts on the volume, time and value of the shares traded through Tan Sri Azam's stock trading account. The Early Schooling Assistance or BAP of RM150 for the 2022-2023 school session will be distributed from Monday. The Education Ministry said Standard 1 to Form 4 students with a monthly household income of RM3,000 and below who are attending the 2021-2022 school session are eligible to receive the assistance. For Standard 1 students who will start schooling on March 21st, the BAP will be given after the registration process is completed. The Ministry said the BAP will be distributed via cash or credited to bank accounts for students who have bank accounts. For cash distribution, the Ministry said it will be implemented in schools according to the standard operating procedures set by the National Security Council and the Health Ministry. In the 2022 budget, the government had agreed to provide early schooling assistance of RM150, higher than the RM100 that was given previously. Almost 9 million COVID-19 vaccine booster shots have been administered in the country as at 11:59 p.m. on Thursday. Health Minister Jamaluddin said he expects the number to surpass 10 million next week as the government is gearing up its efforts to encourage more people to take the booster vaccine. Khairi, in a Twitter posting on Friday, said hospital capacity remains under control despite the surge of imported Omicron cases as a result of the accelerated booster program, along with the standard operating procedures in place. Citing Sarawak as an example, he said the state recorded daily cases exceeding 3,000 before it started its booster program in October. He added that the number of daily cases currently showed a decrease to double digits, with every indicator falling by more than 90% since September. Khairi said 4 mega COVID-19 vaccination centres in the Klang Valley will begin to operate beginning this Saturday to offer booster shots in a bid to increase the take-up rate for the third dose. The 4 vaccination centres are at the World Trade Centre Kuala Lumpur, Axiata Arena Bukit Jalil, Ideal Convention Centre IDCC Shah Alam and Soka Gakal in Klang. Malaysia's decision to delay the declaration of the COVID-19 endemic phase under the National Recovery Plan may be unpopular, but a necessary precaution due to the Omicron variant. Senior Defence Minister Datuk Sri Hishamuddin Tun Hussein said he agreed with the decision as it is important for the overall safety and health of the public.
Minggu pertama bulan ini saya nak umumkan bahawa kita nak masuk kepada fasa transisi endemik. Tetapi kita nak tunggu sedikit 1-2 minggu ni kerana bila kita umumkan fasa transisi endemik ni ada 7 atau 8 perkara yang perlu kita maklumkan pada orang ramai. Contohnya SOP kita.
Datuk Sri Hishamuddin was speaking to reporters during a working visit to the Armed Forces Joint Task Force in Tawau, Sabah on Friday. He added Malaysia was not late in implementing the endemic phase, even though all states in the country were already under Phase 4 of the National Recovery Plan. He also stressed that the government is also observing the situation in certain countries that are worrying, citing the United States as an example, which saw 1 million new COVID-19 cases 2 weeks ago and over 500,000 daily cases currently. While he said Australia recorded 60,000 new COVID-19 cases a day despite being in constant lockdown, adding that those who contracted the virus were high-risk groups with underlying health conditions and senior citizens. Malaysia will be the 12th country to complete the ratification process of the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership or RCEP agreement this year. Senior International Trade and Industry Minister Datuk Sri Muhammad Azmin Ali said the government would be submitting the instrument of ratification to the ASEAN Secretariat in Indonesia. Speaking to TV3, Datuk Sri Azmin said that the government had given the mandate to the International Trade and Industry Ministry to inform the Foreign Minister, Datuk Sri Saifuddin Abdullah, and he has given the assurance that the instrument of ratification will be submitted soon.
Dan kita menjangkakan dalam mengikut provision yang ada di dalam perjanjian RCEP 60 hari daripada tarikh kita kemukakan IOR ianya akan melengkapkan proses ratifikasi. Jadi Malaysia insya-Allah adalah negara yang ke-12 yang akan meratifikasikan perjanjian RCEP yang kita jangkakan pada bulan Mac ini.
Datuk Sri Azmin added that the process to ratify RCEP required Parliament approval for amendments made to 3 acts under the purview of the Domestic Trade and Consumer Affairs Ministry, mainly relating to intellectual property rights, such as the Patents Act, Copyright Act and the Trademarks Act in December last year. On November 15th, 2020, Malaysia had signed the RCEP agreement with 14 other RCEP participating countries. Datuk Sri Azmin said the signing showed that ASEAN, with its 5 free trade agreement FTA partners, placed utmost priority on regional economic integration that facilitates cross-border trade, investments and the easing of non-tariff measures. RCEP is the world's largest free trade agreement with a market that covers almost 1/3 of the world's population, or 2.2 billion people. Earlier, Datuk Sri Azmin received a contribution of 100,000 ringgit from 26 Malaysia to help aid flood victims. Also present was Media Prima Berhad's Group Chairman, Datuk Sri Dr. Syed Hussein Al-Junaid. The technology company, based in Perak, also plans to invest 770 million ringgit over a period of 10 years for its operations in Malaysia.
And we are looking at bringing additional investment, which we are working very closely with MIDA to bring in 3 more new products, namely the ROADMs, the 800G and above transceivers, and also coherent transceivers. So we are looking at additional capex investment of 770 million in the next 10 years.
The company also plans to expand by building newer facilities in order to increase the capacity of its production plant, a move which is expected to create some 3,600 new job opportunities for the people. The advent of online hearings is not merely a means to cope with the COVID-19 epidemic, but a permanent feature of the judicial system. Chief Justice Tun Tengku Maimun Tuan Mat said virtual courts have now become an indelible aspect of the country's system of advocacy, and there is no question of reverting to the old ways of holding physical hearings.
Virtual courts have now become an indelible aspect of our system of advocacy. I say indelible because some have queried when and whether the judiciary will be reverting to physical hearings as the norm. I wish to make it clear that the judiciary has always embarked on technological advancements, and online or virtual hearings marked our progress in this direction. The advance of online hearings...
Tun Tengku Maimun said this in her speech at the opening of the legal year 2022 in Putrajaya on Friday. She said that when the epidemic first hit in March 2020, the courts were forced to proceed with online cases on securing the consent of both parties, subject always to the interests of justice. This was because there was no clear permissive legislation stipulating that online hearings or trials are allowed at the behest of the court. Tun Tengku Maimun added that currently Parliament has affirmatively intervened to expressly allow for online hearings irrespective of consent, but subject still to the interests of justice, adding that there is no room for dispute as to the propriety of the method, given that this shift is not unique to Malaysia. The crucial change in law to allow for this was made with the insertion of Section 15A of the Courts of Judicature Act 1964, which states that the court may conduct civil or criminal proceedings through a remote communication technology. Kuala Nerus MP Datuk Muhammad Khairuddin Aman Razali has been removed as a past Central Committee member less than 2 months after he was appointed to the post. Past President Tan Sri Abdul Hadi Awang said the decision was made at a meeting held at PAS headquarters in Kuala Lumpur recently. Tan Sri Abdul Hadi confirmed the matter when met by reporters after Friday prayers in Marang, Terengganu on Friday. He, however, declined to elaborate why Datuk Khairuddin, who is also the former Plantation Industries and Commodities Minister, was dropped, saying that the matter was handled by past Secretary General Datuk Sri Taqiyuddin Hassan.
Mestilah ada alasan-alasan lah yang dipegang pada parti, alasan-alasan. Mestilah banyak alasan-alasannya. Mestilah banyak. Dalam parti ada disiplin. Siapa yang tak ikut disiplin, dia boleh dinasihatkan dan boleh ditukar jawatan dia, dia bertugas lain, dan boleh digantung keahlian dan boleh dipecat. Itu tata tertib parti kita.
On November 23rd last year, Datuk Khairuddin was among 3 past leadership who was reappointed as Central Committee members after their defeat in the party election. After the break, doctor remanded again over fake vaccine certificate.
The impact of the COVID-19 pandemic on the fintech industry, opportunities and challenges in digital financial services, cryptocurrency concerns, time to regulate or not, new opportunities for fintech and unlocking the potential of fintech in Malaysia. Fintech Association of Malaysia President Karen Pua speaks to Money Matters this Saturday at 5 p.m. only on TV3.
Nightline, a doctor of a private clinic who was previously held for allegedly selling fake COVID-19 vaccination certificates in Terengganu has been remanded again, this time for investigation in connection to cheating. Magistrate Engku Nurul Ain Engku Muda allowed the suspect to be remanded until Saturday for investigation under the Penal Code. State Commercial Crime Investigation Department Chief Superintendent M. Zamri Mahmud said the doctor was rearrested for allegedly receiving payments to supply COVID-19 vaccination certificates without having to perform an actual injection. The suspect failed to provide the certificate to his clients. Last Saturday, the self-confessed anti-vaxxer doctor was arrested on suspicion of issuing COVID-19 vaccination certificates without administering the vaccine, but was released on police bail on Thursday. Pulau Pinang Police on Friday confirmed the arrest of a Perak assemblyman who was tested positive for drugs during a raid on an entertainment centre in Prai. State Narcotics Crime Investigation Department Chief ACP Mustafa Kamal Ghani Abdullah said the man in his 50s was arrested at 9 p.m. on Thursday after his urine test came back positive for drugs. He said the assemblyman was remanded for a day and has been released on police bail. The case involving the assemblyman would be carried out according to the Dangerous Drugs Act. Out of 48 people arrested, 36 were tested positive for drugs, of which 28 were men, including the state assemblyman, and 8 women, all aged between 21 and 70 years old. Also in Pulau Pinang, a total of 23 individuals, including 12 minors and 4 women, were charged at the Georgetown Magistrates Court on Friday with promoting online gambling last week. The accused, aged between 16 and 32 years old, however, claimed trial after the charges were read out to them before Magistrate Rosni Muhammad Razwan. 10 of the accused were charged with committing the offence at a condominium in Persiaran Gurni at about 5:20 p.m. on January 7th, while 13 others were charged with committing the same offence at a condominium in Jalan Kelawar at 6:45 p.m. on the same day. They were charged under the Common Gaming Houses Act, read together with the Penal Code, which provides for a minimum fine of 5,000 ringgit and a maximum of 50,000 ringgit, and imprisonment for a maximum of 3 years, and a minimum fine of 5,000 ringgit and a maximum fine of 50,000 ringgit for each gambling machine seized upon conviction. Magistrate Rosni allowed the accused bail of 9,000 ringgit with 1 shorty each and set March 7th for remention. A security guard from Malacca has been sentenced to 5 years in prison after pleading guilty on charges of injuring his 10-year-old stepson on purpose last week. 32-year-old Ramlan Abdul Karim was charged with injuring his 10-year-old stepson with intent using a motorcycle on January 7th. It was understood that during the incident, the suspect and his wife had an argument relating to their divorce, at which point the situation escalated quickly. The security guard was also sentenced to a fine of 2,000 ringgit or 2 months prison if he failed to pay the fine. A father and his 2 children were drowned in waters off Sabah's East Coast Kunak district after their boat capsized on Thursday. Kunak Police Chief Superintendent Sabaruddin Rahmat said the body of 31-year-old Saujal Mangguna, a Filipino fisherman, was found on Friday morning, while the bodies of his children, 5-year-old Muhammad Haizal and 3-year-old Suryani, were found the day before. His 35-year-old wife survived the incident. Police had received a report around 5 p.m. on Thursday that the 4 had boarded the boat from Kampung Bangkuruan in Lahad Datu and were on their way to Pekan Kuna when strong winds and big waves caused the boat to capsize. The case has been classified as sudden death and the bodies have been sent to the Kuna hospital for post-mortem. Downing Street staff partied as Queen grieved alone. Details when we return. Back now with the foreign news. Hospitalisation rates in New South Wales is expected to plateau next week as the Australia's most populous state suffers from a record COVID-19 deaths for a third day. According to the country's top health official, pressure on hospitals will likely remain for the next few weeks, though hospitalisation numbers were tracking better than the best-case scenario in an official modelling a week ago. The surge in cases fueled by the Omicron variant has piled pressure on hospitals, which are grappling with record admissions, and on other sectors of the economy. Worst hit New South Wales reported more than 63,000 new infections on Friday, while neighbouring Victoria reported about 35,000.
So people in that region really should jump on the health website and have a look at those exposure sites.
Over in India, hundreds of thousands of Hindu worshippers are expected to gather on the banks of the Ganges River on Friday for a holy bath, despite a 30-fold rise in coronavirus cases in the past 1 month. A large number of devotees are expected to take a holy dip in the sacred river that flows through the eastern state of West Bengal, which is reporting the most number of cases in the country after Maharashtra state in the west. In the most populous state of Uttar Pradesh, thousands of devotees are likely to throng at the banks of the Ganges River in the holy city of Prayagraj as Hindus celebrate the Makar Sankranti festival. On Friday morning, many maskless devotees marched towards the river as vendors sold flowers and other wares on both sides of the road. Last year, a big religious gathering in northern India contributed to a record rise in coronavirus cases. In another development, pressure is continuing to mount on British Prime Minister Boris Johnson after Downing Street staff were once again accused of holding parties in Number 10, this time on the eve of Prince Philip's funeral. According to reports, the gatherings were made up of about 30 people drinking alcohol and dancing to music until the early hours of April 17th, and restrictions at the time banned indoor mixing between different households. In a statement, Number 10 said a leaving speech had been given, but would not comment when asked if there had been drinking and dancing. Johnson, who is already facing calls to resign over a drinks gathering he admitted to attending in May 2020, was not at either party, but it raises further questions about a culture of rule breaking at Downing Street. Tennis star Novak Djokovic faces deportation again after the Australian government revoked his visa for a second time on Friday, 3 days before the Australian Open. The decision was made by Australian Immigration Minister Alex Hawke, who exercised his discretionary powers to revoke Djokovic's visa on public interest grounds after a court quashed an earlier revocation and released him from immigration detention on Monday. It was understood that Djokovic's lawyers are expected to appeal the cancellation in the Federal Circuit and Family Court, as they successfully did after the first cancellation. Djokovic's lawyers will need to seek an interim order for the 34-year-old to be granted a bridging visa from the courts with work rights so he can play in the Australian Open. For a period of 28 days, Djokovic's legal team can now also make further representations to the minister himself to revoke the cancellation. Action from the Qatar Stars League. Stay tuned.
the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic on the fintech industry, opportunities and challenges in digital financial services, cryptocurrency concerns, time to regulate or not, new opportunities for fintech and unlocking the potential of fintech in Malaysia. Fintech Association of Malaysia President Karen Pua speaks to Money Matters this Saturday at 5 p.m. only on TV3.
Thanks for staying with us on Nightline. On to sports now. Football. The Qatar Stars League. Al Duhail moved to 1 point ahead of Al Saad at the top of the table after a thrilling 4-2 win over Al Gharafa. Brazilian international Edmilson Jr. scored the opening goal for Al Duhail in the 14th minute with a phone volley before setting up Michael Olunga, who found the back of the net in the 47th minute to make it 2-0. The visitors then went up 3-0 thanks to a strike from Almoez Ali 4 minutes before the hour mark. Al Gharafa suddenly stormed back into the game shortly after, with Gabriel Pires pulling one back for the hosts in the 57th minute, followed by another goal from Ahmad Mohamad as they brought the scoreline to 3-2. However, it was the visitors who had the last laugh when Rabu Safi turned a through pass from Muhammad Muntari in injury time for a 4-2 final scoreline. On to tennis. The Adelaide International Open, Frenchman Arthur Rinderknech reached his first ATP final following a straight-set win over countryman Corentin Moutet in the semi-final on Friday. Rinderknech dropped just 3 points on his first serve and won more than half of his return points to claim a convincing 6-1 win in the first set before he continued his momentum in the second set by winning it 6-3 in the 1 hour and 16-minute encounter. The world number 58 will next face the winner between 4th seed Marin Cilic and in-form Australian wildcard Thanasi Kokkinakis in his first ATP Tour level final. Over in Russia, about 27 artists and sculptors have travelled thousands of kilometres to Novosibirsk to carve ice sculptures based on the legends, myths and beliefs of the local population for this year's Siberia Snow Sculpture Festival. Visuals of the preparation wraps up Nightline this time around. I'm Azaria Tagaya. Thank you for watching and stay safe.